Well, it's that time of the week when we go out to California and talk to Michael Snyder and find out all about the films and what they're doing and how's he doing. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Alex, and I'm doing fine. And there was a bit of a fire near where I live in the LA area a few days ago, but we came through it unscathed, although my heart goes out to the people suffering with all of these wildfires in the West and the hurricanes that are devastating the East. It's like the wrath of God is down upon us. And, I'm hoping for better things in that regard, but here come more hurricanes. Meanwhile, let's get down to movies because we'll need a little diversion with all this natural disaster. What do you say?
Go ahead.
Okay. It is far from a disaster. That's the title of the movie, It. And shockingly, this adaptation of Stephen King's novel, It, updating the setting of the book from Derry, a small town in Maine during the 1950s, to Derry, a small town in Maine in the 1980s, is truly one of the best movies or TV programs taken from or inspired by King's writing. Now imagine Stephen King's Stand By Me if those lovable kids in that book, movie, etc., were up against a supernatural horror. Although this adaptation only covers the first half of King's book, setting up a sequel that I'm already eager to see, it's definitely better than the 1990 TV miniseries adaptation, which is basically about a bunch of adolescent boys and one girl who discover an evil that has plagued their town for centuries. How has it plagued the town? People, particularly children, have been disappearing after periods of no disappearances. Thus, something bizarre is going on. Tim Curry's villainous clown in the original set a high bar, but Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise, that's the clown's name, admittedly aided by modern special effects, is a twisted, fantastically fearsome, and nightmare-inducing performance. This creature apparently lives in the sewers under Derry, and when one boy's little brother disappears, he is determined to find out how and why, and he's joined by his friends. These kids, by the way, are just fantastic. Special mention must go out to this kid, Jaden Liebercher, as Bill, who is just wonderful, like the ostensible leader of the kids, and dealing with all kinds of personal angst. And also Sophia Lillis as the girl Beverly, wonderful. There are villains in the form of some of the adults, too. Very, very effective. Directed by Andy Muschietti, who previously directed Mama with Jessica Chastain, which is also a fantastic horror film that you might want to seek out online. The adaptation is great. The performances, I was pleased by this. It's a bargain matinee. It's something to go to at night. It's something to watch at home. But it worked very, very well. Wish I could say the same about Home Again. Although Reese Witherspoon can shine in the right role and project, I went into Home Again, her latest star vehicle, with very low expectations, as befits a movie made by young writer-director Hallie Myers Shire. I mean, no knock on her, the kid, but she's the daughter of the puerile L.A. filmmakers Nancy Myers and Charlie Shire. She made It's Complicated. I mean, you get the idea. They make bland, smug romantic comedies about well-off neurotics with white people problems. I feared a second-generation version of that privileged baloney, and I did hope for better. But sure enough, this is a self-congratulatory white privilege blather once removed. And Witherspoon's character, Alice Kinney, it's a nice idea. She's the perfect 40-year-old woman who's got it all, everything but a properly attentive husband. And since that husband is a douche, she left him back in New York and returned to her hometown of Los Angeles with her two adorkable prepubescent daughters, moving into her late filmmaker father's house, determined to make a name for herself as a decorator. There's a lot of empowerment going on here, and I can't complain about that. But then they throw in a trio of 20-something aspiring filmmakers who hit town and through kismet end up temporarily moving into Alice's guest house. And this expanded family situation leads to a little sexy time when one of the boys, in his late 20s, gets into a younger man, older woman fling with Alice. The movie biz meeting stuff that they involve themselves in seems kind of bogus. And the presence of Michael Sheen as Alex's estranged ex and Candice Bergen as her formerly glamorous movie star mother are a galling waste of talent. The moral that this film brings to mind is either you can't go home again or you shouldn't. I mean, you definitely shouldn't see Home Again if you can help it. What can I say? It's a date movie, wannabe, and I would not want to go on that particular date. The Lighthouse Golem is next, and this is opening in a number of theaters. It was released last year in the UK, and I love Victorian London period pieces, all gloomy and foggy with a whiff of danger, like anything Jekyll and Hyde, or like the TV show Ripper Street, which was set in that era. Anyway, The Limehouse Golem is a pretty good gothic crime drama and murder mystery, and it's set then when a serial killer, not Jack the Ripper, starts committing grisly murders, and a disrespected Scotland Yard inspector is assigned to the case. He's played with typical precision, dignity, and a lot of indignation by the great Bill Nighy, whose character takes a shine to a recently widowed former music hall star, who is played by a young actress named Olivia Cooke, and this music hall star is being accused of murdering her husband. Entirely separate from this set of serial killings, but there is some connection, says the inspector. With this backdrop of the seamy, kind of gaslit world of the music halls, there's kind of a dark theatrical sweep to the movie. In fact, the suspects include the widow's former co-star, who was still a lionized performer, well played by Douglas Booth. Directed by Juan Carlos Medina, written by Jane Goldman. I really enjoyed The Limehouse Golem, and, it might be in your wheelhouse as well. It might soon be available on streaming, but, I recommend it. I wish I could be so excited about Rebel in the Rye. And as you might suspect, this is about the life of reclusive author J.D. Salinger, writer of the great American novel Catcher in the Rye. He's given the biopic treatment by writer-director Danny Strong. Now, you might remember Danny Strong played, I believe, Andrew on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, kind of a goofy comic relief character. But he also wrote the scripts to the Oscar-nominated, and I think in some cases Oscar-winning, The Butler, and also two of the Hunger Games films, the Mockingjay movies 1 and 2. And he pulled together a terrific cast here, and despite the talent on hand, it's a disappointment. It's too little sense of genuine drama, too much of a feeling of melodrama to this. Nicholas Hoult plays the young J.D. Salinger. Kevin Spacey plays his professor and mentor. Zoe Deutsch plays, I guess, the love of his life, socialite Una O'Neill, daughter of playwright Eugene O'Neill. And you also get in supporting roles Victor Garber, Hope Davis, Sarah Paulson. These are very good actors. But I just didn't feel that it was the equal to the sum of its parts. I know that Salinger was like a hermit for much of his life as one of the great American authors, and we know he was a difficult, eccentric guy. And for that matter, we know comparatively little about such a renowned, celebrated artist because he kind of kept out of the public eye. So there's conjecture here, and I like the performances, but it comes off a bit too heavy-handed and cliched in spots. I kind of hope for better, and I didn't get better. Let's wrap up the concentration on these new films with Rememory. I'll put Rememory in the wasted opportunity file. It's a little science fiction movie starring Peter Dinklage of Game of Thrones, Tyrion Lannister himself, a lead of small stature and big talent, and the best thing about the film. But it meanders along and doesn't do much with its premise, which is the recording and replay of people's memories, and in this case, it's in the service of a murder mystery. The memory recording concept has been kind of rocked by the likes of the movie Strange Days and the Black Mirror episode, I think it's called The Entire History of Us, something like that. But this time, the memory trick does not stick. In fact, concept aside, Rememory is not particularly memorable, even with Dinklage, Martin Donovan, Julia Ormond, where's she been? Henry Ian Cusack of Lost, Evelyn Brochu of Orphan Black. They're all in the cast. And then there's the heartbreak of seeing the late and talented young actor Anton Yelchin in one of his final screen appearances, but it's a small and thankless role. In any event, Dinklage's character wants to find out why the man who created this technology played by Martin Donovan, died. Who killed him? Why did it occur? I just wish it had been a better film. Mark Polanski directed and co-wrote it, and again, I wish for better. That's about it in terms of our spotlight on new movies. I do wish to point out a fine film, something I really liked that opened last week, called Viceroy's House. And Viceroy's House is basically set right when the UK was partitioning India. It's a period drama. It's set in the late 1940s as India is liberated from British rule during the stewardship of Lord Mountbatten, played here by Hugh Bonneville of Downton Abbey. His wife, Edwina, is played by Gillian Anderson, and there's a Indian cast here. And this is a dramatic and informative movie. Viceroy's House had a big impact on me. I didn't know a lot of the details. All the people you'd expect to be in the movie show up, including Gandhi, written by Paul Mayetta Borges, and Moira Buffini, and directed by Gurinder Chadha. And I just thought Viceroy's House should be sought out by people who love good historical drama, good performances, and a fascinating situation, and very relevant today. That's it. What do you have in film or TV, Mr. B?
Nothing. And nothing. Yeah.
Have you what have you done with your spare time? No dramatic endeavors. No. Streaming any TV programs?
No.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll check back, I guess, next week.
I mean, I watched the first new episode of that show, The Worst. What's it called?
You Are the Worst.
You Are the Worst, and I thought it was just terrible.
Oh, well, there you go.
Just terrible.
We'll disagree on that. I love that show. But,
yeah, well, you can love the show, but they didn't pull it off, at least not in the first episode.
I will get to it and tell you what I think next time.
Yeah, very disappointing. Very disappointing.
In the meantime, you can check me out at Twitter, at Culture Blaster, and on Facebook at Michael Snyder's Facebook page, Michael Snyder's Culture Blast. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Until next week.
Thank you very much, Michael. And, of course, as usual, there's more GABNet coming right up.